Ilia Topuria and Islam Makhachev will both struggle against each other, and here's why. Now, the reasons listed on why they're going to struggle against each other are specific to their fight. Just because I say a guy like Ilia is going to struggle in the clinch doesn't mean he would struggle against a guy like Gamrot. But getting straight into it, starting off with Ilia Topuria and his weaknesses, with number one being undersized. Ilia can say that he can't make 145 anymore. It's too hard of a weight cut to be a featherweight. And whether you believe that or not, and whether you think he's going to fit well at lightweight, it is a massive difference, and he still is a small lightweight. He hasn't had, years or whatever to build up to 155. And for Islam Makhachev, he's one of the biggest lightweights on the roster. The size difference, the strength difference is going to be massive, especially in the early rounds. Now, I know like a guy like Volkanovski, he was able to do well against Islam when he has a similar build and frame to Ilia, but the size did make a difference in that fight. He still lost the first fight, and you could say that Islam really only won because of his size advantage. It was so close. Where if you have a guy like Islam Makhachev and he's the same exact size as Volkanovski, most people probably say that first fight Volkanovski would win. So size does play a role in this fight, and I do think Ilia Topuria is going to be at a massive disadvantage, especially in the early rounds. I think it's going to be very hard for him to stuff takedowns. We saw Islam Makhachev do well against Poirier, especially early on. He does very good early on in the fights. Number two is open stance. We know Ilia Topuria is an orthodox fighter. We know Islam Makhachev is a southpaw fighter, and because of this, there's a lot of weapons that Islam Makhachev can use to defeat Ilia Topuria and just overall win exchanges. We saw Bryce Mitchell do very well in southpaw against Ilia Topuria, especially in that second round. He was landing a lot of straight left hands. He was really tagging Ilia Topuria. Didn't hurt him because he's, a small featherweight. He's not very powerful. It's not like Islam Makhachev, who's not the most powerful guy, but given his size, he's obviously more powerful than Bryce Mitchell and a way cleaner striker than Bryce Mitchell. We also saw Max Holloway. He was fighting in orthodox for pretty much the entire fight up until the third round. He was switching, and when he was in southpaw, again, he was landing clean left straights on Ilia Topuria and body kicks. Those are two of Islam Makhachev's best weapons on the feet that I believe he's going to tag Ilia Topuria a lot with. And I believe it's just going to frustrate Ilia. It's going to keep on sending him back where he can't really pressure effectively with Islam Makhachev constantly landing. So I do believe that is a big weakness for Ilia Topuria in this fight. I don't believe he's as effective against southpaws as he is against orthodox fighters. Next up, we have the grappling. Now, I know people say Ilia Topuria comes from a grappling background. He's actually a better grappler than he is striker. But just because someone comes from a certain background doesn't mean that's where they're at the absolute best. For Ilia Topuria, he's without a doubt a striker. He's a better striker than he is a grappler. That's proven. Again, for grappling, we haven't really seen Ilia Topuria grapple that much in the UFC. We saw a little bit against Bryce Mitchell, and his takedown defense in the open was pretty good. And he did eventually get taken down at the end of the first, and he didn't show an ability to get up. And it was a similar takedown to the Volkanovski versus Islam fight, where Volk kind of ran in to the takedown in the open mat, and Islam Makhachev was able to control him for the rest of the round. Kind of similar in this scenario, and I think with the size advantage, it's going to happen for at least a round, where Ilia Topuria for at least a round is going to get held down. And it is going to be, his weakness of grappling is going to be exploited by Islam Makhachev. Whether you think that Ilia Topuria can stuff the takedowns is one thing, but every time he's on the ground, despite his background, he's going to be in constant danger against a guy like Islam Makhachev. We saw that in the Moicano fight. The second he tried to get to his feet, he got submitted. And I just believe Ilia Topuria, his grappling is not going to be as effective at 155 as it was at 145. There's not many grapplers at 145, and the guys at 155 are much more likely to test the grappling, like Islam Makhachev, like Charles Oliveira, like Arman Tsarukyan, and I feel also the size, he's not going to fare as well in the grappling. So that's another weakness, in my opinion, heading into this matchup. Number 4 is Ilia Topuria overextends, and he overextends a lot. We saw this in the Bryce Mitchell fight and other fights where he gets too comfortable, he throws a combination, and he falls off balance. Kind of similar to Michael Chandler, and he's never really had to pay for this. No one has really been able to make him pay, land something big when he overextends. Islam Makhachev, being a counter striker, may be able to land a counter right hook, or he could tie him up in the clinch and land something, or he could try to take him down from there. There's a lot of ways where Islam Makhachev can exploit this that other guys that Ilia Topuria has faced really are not going to be able to. So that's another weakness heading into this fight. At number 5, I would say is the clinch. For the clinch, you just have to avoid the clinch at all costs against a guy like Islam Makhachev. And we did see guys like Volkanovski, when they were in the clinch, he landed some good knees to the body. I'm sure Islam Makhachev could do that much better given the height difference. There's also the knee up the middle in the clinch that's going to be there. We saw him kind of land it against Dustin Poirier, and he landed it pretty clean. And Poirier is a guy who's much bigger and taller than Ilia Topuria. So I believe that's going to be another weapon for him. Ilia Topuria just has to avoid it at all costs. Another weakness that people will say is the head kick. I don't think it's that big of a weakness. I know given, again, the height difference, it's always going to be there. But when he got dropped against Jai Herbert, it's because he was throwing it mid-combination. I don't see Islam Makhachev throwing a head kick while Ilia Topuria is throwing something. I just don't see that happening. And even when they're just in the center, like he kind of landed against Volkanovski, I get the body kicks are going to set up the head kick. I just don't think it's going to rock Ilia at any point in the fight. So I don't think it's that big of a weakness. But those 5, I believe, are the biggest weaknesses for Ilia Topuria heading into the fight against Islam Makhachev. Now moving on to Islam Makhachev and his weaknesses heading into this fight, starting off with number 1 is pressure. We know that Islam Makhachev is a counter striker. He likes to sometimes go on the back foot, but against Ilia Topuria, you really cannot afford to do that because Ilia is so good at cutting off the cage and getting your back against the cage and then landing a crazy combination, most of the time knocking you out. And for Islam Makhachev, he has to circle back into the center. He cannot afford to be on the back foot for the entire fight. He's at constant risk. Just like I said with Ilia Topuria, he's at constant risk on the ground. With Islam Makhachev, when he's circling around, he's at constant risk of getting cut off, getting knocked out. So pressure is a big problem for Islam Makhachev in this fight. Number 2 is body work. We've never really seen anyone test the body of Islam Makhachev up until Dustin Poirier did it, but he wasn't able to do it until later on in the fight, later on in the rounds where he had a ton of success doing it. And Ilia Topuria, I believe, has better body work than Dustin Poirier. I think he may even hit harder than Dustin Poirier. And I just believe that he's going to be able to test Islam Makhachev because Makhachev, he's very good. He has very good striking defense. But when someone has good striking defense, it's very smart to go to the body, which I feel like Ilia Topuria can do. And I think he may be able to gas out Islam Makhachev by constantly going to the body, maybe slow him down, then get his defense and his guard down, and then land something upstairs. I think that could happen. So that's another weakness for Islam Makhachev. Number 3 is Islam slows down. Now, that doesn't mean that he has bad cardio. We've only seen him go 5 rounds a handful of times, but in both of those fights, as the fight progressed, I know he finished Dustin in the 5th round, but he was having less and less success, it seemed like, every round. And his takedowns, I know he was able to take down Volk in the 4th round where he kind of ran into the takedown, which could happen here, but just overall, he was struggling to get the fight to the ground as the fight progressed, and both fighters showed better takedown defense as the fight went on. And I think for Ilia Topuria with this fight, every single round, it's going to be a little bit more on the feet. The first round's probably going to be mostly on the ground. Same for the second round, but the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, it's slowly going to be on the feet. Islam, his striking defense isn't going to be as good, and he's going to be more at risk as the fight goes on. He has a good gas tank, but I just believe for the 5 rounds, he's going to be in danger the entire time. So it is kind of a weakness for him. Number 4 is durability. Now, Islam Makhachev is pretty durable. He has a good chin. He's ate clean shots from guys like Dustin Poirier. But with Islam Makhachev for this fight, he's going up to 170 and then coming back down to 155. So there's also a chance that he gets knocked out by JDM, finished, and then has to do a horrible weight cut back down after bulking up. And going against Ilia Topuria, that's the last guy you want to go against when your chin is softened up. We've seen guys like GSP talk about it, where he says that the big problem isn't going up. Going up is pretty easy, bulking up, but going back down after you're all bulked up is a big problem. And I think that is going to be a problem with Islam Makhachev. If the fight was right now, it would favor him a lot more. I think that he should have stayed for one more fight and then went up. I don't know if this was the right decision, but yeah, this is another weakness heading into this fight. Ilia Topuria just hits so hard, where it's going to be pretty much a weakness for everyone going against Ilia. Number 5 is in the pocket. Now, this is similar to the clinch with Islam. It's not that Islam Makhachev is bad in the pocket. He's landed some good strikes, but he's also gotten hit in the pocket. And against Ilia, you just want to avoid it at all costs. Again, if Ilia gets too close, just tie him up. I think that's what Charles Oliveira needs to do. It's going to be kind of hard to shoot takedowns on him when he's going backwards. He could do it, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult. So that's another problem for Islam Makhachev. He just has to avoid the pocket. And it's tough because we've seen him go in the pocket with Dustin Poirier and have success. I do not think he should do that in this fight. Another problem that I don't think is going to be that big of a deal is leg kicks. Ilia Topuria has really underrated leg kicks, and they're pretty effective. We've seen him land them on Volkanovski. He was spinning Volk around with them. They were much more damaging than Volk's leg kicks. But with this 2 stances, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. We saw him struggle against Bryce Mitchell where he didn't really land any leg kicks until Bryce Mitchell was orthodox and he landed a really good leg kick. I don't think it's going to be that effective in this fight, and I don't think it's going to be a weakness for Islam Makhachev. Now, my prediction for this fight, early prediction, 1, I don't know if this fight ever happens. If Islam wins against JDM, I don't see him coming back down. But I think if the fight was happening right now, I would pick Islam Makhachev pretty confidently. I would pick him by submission. But because Islam Makhachev is going to have to go up, then go back down, he's going to have to wait another year. He's going to be a little bit older, 33, 34 if I'm not mistaken. I would lean Ilia Topuria. I think it all comes down to if you think Islam Makhachev is going to submit Ilia Topuria, which he can. But I think Ilia Topuria, if this fight happens in a year, I think he would win, especially if he beats Charles Oliveira, obviously. If he beats Charles Oliveira, and that fight is going to tell us a lot about this fight, he'll have built into 155. He would be a better frame for the weight class at that point. And I think that he would find the finish in the 4th or 5th after losing most of the fight. So I would go with Ilia if this fight ever happens. If this fight happened now, though, I would go with Islam Makhachev. But yeah, that's my prediction. Let me know what you think.